didn't really, a lot of people don't even think they deserve to be in this spot, so they can play loose and free. The problem is they're going to be up in New England, and you can bet that Bill Belichick will do his best to take T.Y. Hilton away from Andrew Luck. If he does that effectively, Indianapolis is going to have a hard time finding enough guys to make plays against New England's defense.
All right, give us your picks for Saturday's games.
It's hard to pick against New England in Foxborough. I'm going to take both those home teams, Seattle and New England.
All right, that's NFL Insider Steve Tasker. Colin Kaepernick and Cam Newton will face off on Sunday when the 49ers travel to Carolina. The two quarterbacks, roommates of the NFL Combine in 2011, and both went in that year's draft. Newton was the first overall pick, while Kaepernick fell to the 49ers at 36.
He's a great player. He does a lot of things well. We do have some similarities.
You and Cam were in the same draft as number one. Does that motivate you to prove that you deserve to be drafted by a team?
It's not something I'll forget.
Nothing you forget?
Not something I'll forget.
There were a couple of famous playoff moments on this day in history. 32 years ago, January 10th, 1982, the NFC Championship game between the Cowboys and 49ers. Legendary Dodgers broadcaster Vince Scully with the call as Joe Montana found Dwight Clark in the back of the end zone. Niners beat the Cowboys 28-27 with the play simply known as the catch. The same year, 1982, featured the Chargers and Bengals in the AFC Championship game, the game known as the Freezer Bowl. Cincinnati won 27-7, the game played with 43-kilometer-an-hour winds and the coldest wind chill in NFL history, minus 38 degrees Celsius. Those of us in Ontario know what that felt like this past week. When they return, hats off to Stuart Sink. Oh, he's taken home the award for the worst tan line ever. And can't we all just get along? And we media confrontations are the hosts of the countdown.
He can't work up to 2 times faster than the other guys, so why go anywhere else?
This quarterback had a situation. Someone trying to kill me.
Sometimes the best way out of a tight situation is on 2 wheels. To celebrate the release of Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, Sportsnet and Paramount are giving away a Ducati Diablo Carbon valued at over $25,000. To visit sportsnet.ca/Jack Ryan.
There's a very real scenario here where we don't get out of this alive.
Take your best shot at a Ducati and don't miss Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit in theaters January 17th.
A month ago, the attitude surrounding the Raptors was wasted for Wiggins. The team has since done a 180 and have won 7 of their past 10. Despite all the recent success, the Raptors know a lot of work remains. Kopakauskas has more.
When you're on the kind of roll the Raptors are on, the words All-Star Game start to surround the team's best players. DeMar DeRozan.
Oh, man, that looks like Clyde Drexler out there.
And Kyle Lowry.
He's on a mission to win games. From start to finish.
It'll be unbelievable for both of us. I'm sure either one of us will make it. It'll be a great time, a great accomplishment and achievement to tell our families and our kids one day.
Just to do something like that, to represent not just, a city, but a country, it's definitely big.
We do deserve all-star ranking and all-star consideration with our players. Because those guys are playing at a very, very high level, Kyle and DeMar.
As good as those two have been, the bigger story is the potential this team has to finish as high as 3rd in the conference.
We just showed everybody in this league we beat anybody. So, sky's the limit for us. I don't put no limitations on us at all.
We still got a lot of growth to go. Everybody's saying we're arrived. We haven't arrived. We still are growing.
Many expected the Brooklyn Nets to dominate the Atlantic Division, only to see them occupy the basement with the New York Knicks for the first third of the season. Now, they're finally starting to roll, winners of 4 straight. And it just so happens they play here Saturday night.
11-time Grand Slam champion. Versus Lucia Arroyo in the town pillow fight in 2009. She was running off. We are competition anytime. PokerStars.net. We are Hook.
Do you remember that scene from that movie on Netflix? The team was down, huh? And the coach, he gave that speech. Yeah. You remember that scene? Yeah. Remember what he said? Yeah. Well, that, gentlemen, is what I am saying.
You gotta get it to get it. Watch movies, TV episodes, and original series instantly on your TV and more. It was him? Look. This is the paranormal activity you've been waiting for. It's the biggest, baddest, oldest paranormal yet. Paranormal activity Mark 1.
Thanks for sticking around for the second half of Connected. I'm Jamie Thomas. We'll check in with Barry Davis in Washington in just a minute. But first, here's what's making headlines on Sportsnet.ca. Chris Johnson writes that the despair grows deeper for the struggling Maple Leafs after a third straight loss. Blue Jays manager John Gibbons confirmed that the team has interest in Masahiro Tanaka, and Mark Spector says Chris Kunitz deserves his spot on Team Canada. Back to the Leafs and their struggles. Toronto is in Washington tonight, trying to snap a 3-game losing streak. They've been outscored 18-5 over that stretch. Toronto has just 2 regulation wins since November 19th, and now find themselves outside the playoff picture.
Some games and they got outplayed, especially early, but then we mounted big comebacks in games and got points. But I think we have a good spirit. You know, we don't go away easy.
You often hear pro athletes talking about the highs and lows of the game. Well, consider the week that Canadian defenseman PK Subban had. On Tuesday, he was named to Canada's Olympic hockey team. A day later, he's benched. Subban is still talking about that. As for the Habs head coach, he's moved on. Ali Lozov picks up the story from Montreal.
PK Subban is an emotional player, and on Wednesday night in Philadelphia, he let his emotions get the best of him. He paid for his actions by watching almost half of the final period from the bench.
That's the coach's decision, and listen, we're running a team here, and that's what the verdict was. I just took it, and when I was talking to play, I just went up there and did my thing.
You know what? I had a great relationship with PK Subban. We communicate a lot, and he understands the decision, by the way, and he totally agrees.
For Terrier and his coaching staff, the team-first mentality reigns supreme. It's a culture change that he and GM Marc Bergevin have tried to instill since they arrived in Montreal last year. Terrier admitted that certain players do have ice time privileges, Subban being one of them, but that will not save him from being benched.
We're running a team here. It's not PK's team, it's not Carey Price's team, it's Montreal Canadiens, and everybody has to fall under the same rules.
So we need to hold everybody accountable. Everybody's responsible for their actions out there, and at the end of the day, we're trying to win hockey games, and we can't do that when we're short-handed.
It's happened in the past with other Canadian players, and they've responded the same way. Markov, Galchenyuk, Briere, all have undergone the same treatment under the Terrier regime. So for Coach, it's just not that big of a deal.
We're making a big story, honestly. As far as I'm concerned, not such a big thing. Because we're talking a lack of 8 minutes of ice time, 4 shifts. It's not that much 4 shifts, honestly.
Do you feel like we're talking about it because it's PK and
A lot of time outside with his hat on. Check out this epic hat 10. Wait for it. Whoa! It'll require a lot of time on the beach to try and even that 10 out. Kevin Durant claims his phone was hacked when this picture appeared on his Twitter account. He tweeted, obviously it's me smoking hookah, but I didn't post it. Durant said someone also sent text messages to people on his contact list. Teammate Nick Collison backed up Durant's claims that he was hacked tweeting the Deadspin. I saw the tweet come up on my timeline when he was outside the Bucks going through TSA security. He didn't send it. Very weird. A recruitment letter from Dean Smith to Michael Jordan is just one of the items up for auction after a North Carolina man bought a storage locker filled with old Jordan memorabilia. Bidding opened at $5,000. Charles Barkley was on CNN yesterday and played beer pong for the first time ever. His beer pong game was about as good as his golf game, which is to say, not very. But as always, Barkley was very entertaining.
Why would you want to make this? I want you to win. No, you're trying to get him drunk. I can live with that. I don't understand why you got to go through all this hard work just to drink beer. And all of them just picked up the beer.
Finally, check out this video from the Freehold Raceway in New Jersey. After beginning the race, the starting gate car slides out of control and 6 of the 7 horses in the race crash into the car. All the horses were okay. 4 drivers were transported to the hospital. Still to come, could Michael Del Zotto's time on Broadway be coming to an end? Our Hockey Central panel will discuss. And you voted, we responded. Athlete media confrontations are on display in our Connected Countdown.
Who will impress the scouts at the ultimate showcase for future NHL stars? This time out, there is no clear number 1. Secretly Sam Reinhart face off against Barry's Aaron Ekblad at the BMO Top Prospects Game, January 15th on Sportsnet.
Whistler is a place that's redefining mountain culture.